Have I been muted this whole time? Damn, that's annoying. Have I been muted this whole time?
Yes, you have.
Obviously. Okay, well, I want to start over. Peace, assalamu alaikum, shalom, hotep, namaste. Jumbo, all the greetings of love and light to the darkest minds of light. Thank you for joining this panel. Please hit the like button, everybody. I'm going to try to be more vigilant about this. If you could, I would really appreciate it. Um, and so as you see the title, and then we can get into the discussion. My position is that there is no difference between, I mean, as far as it says, a species, black and white people are the same species. I don't see us as coming from any other origin. Um, Ngozi, Dr. Reggie, and even Ankh at the end talking about the adaptation of skin color put it very well. So I wanted to continue that discussion. So I know your position, Dulcinea, but just go ahead and let us know a little bit about where you stand with that, and then with Lionel, you can come in as well. And peace to everybody in the chat. I'm sorry I was muted. I was just talking. So peace to everybody in the chat. What is your position, Dulcinea? Can you say that over? I know you said it on SaNeter, but can you say it here?
Yeah, absolutely. In peace. And thank you for allowing me to come on and continuing the conversation. So basically, I believe, and it's somewhat similar because as the base of Homo sapien or the Homo sapien part and being human beings, I believe that we are the same humans. But where I differentiate between the theories is really that the out of Africa theory puts it as one source that's coming to these different places and really almost taking over the species differentiations and saying that we're just all Homo sapiens sapiens because we're out of Africa. And I don't believe that. I believe more so that what you'll see is different types of humans have appeared through admixtures of different hominoid species intermixing with each other in different regions. So just like a tulip comes out of Europe and a rose comes out of America, they can both be beautiful, but they're from their admixtures of where their environment is.
Okay, thank you. And what's your position, Lionel?
My position is the out of Africa theory, where we all come out of, East Africa, and humans, evolved in Africa and moved and migrated and, morphed into Neanderthals, Denisovans, and, even today, right? Um, did you know that people of European descent have more like Neanderthal DNA? And it shows, from like how they look, Asian people are classified as having more Denisovan DNA. So we all come from Africa, but we still have certain traits that came from the evolved being whom we descend from. And I can give an example with that real quick, and I'll turn it over. You know, people of European descent tend to have very high brow ridges, and that kind of would translate to like a large forehead, you know, and that's what Neanderthals had thousands and thousands of years ago, So yeah, we all come from Africa, but we have certain traits that we still have from our ancestors thousands of years ago.
Right, and I just want to add to that because I get what you're saying, Dulcinea, about, and Robin mentioned this too, that how are we all just from one place? However, is there science that, because I think we're all basing it on science, right? Is there science showing like significant scientific information, substantial, I should say, that shows that we originated in other regions besides Africa? Because from what I know, um, the science shows that the fossils and the first the first hominids were found in Africa. I don't know about any other places. So can we talk about that, like the actual science?
Absolutely. And what I would say to that is that I guess it just depends, because now there's just all this forbidden archaeology that, people will say, hey, those people are pseudo for even mentioning it, but they are archaeologists that have found hominin bones that are much older than what's said to be in like the Americas region. They found fossils and different things that they say, like the Pluckney man. I think it is the Pluckney man. That's the man with the footprints next to the dinosaur. They say the dinosaur's footprints is real and can't be faked out of the limestone, but somehow the man's footprints are faked in the same limestone. So there's a lot of stuff that they found, but then they say, okay, this is manufactured, but this portion that agrees with our science is not. So my main thing is about, if we take the theory of Pangea, is when would we say that people would be all over the earth, I guess, is the question.
Right. You're talking about when before the continents were separated, with it was just one large landmass. One.
Exactly.
So I'm not, unfortunately, I'm not as well versed as Ngozi and other people who really stay on studying this information. But, it's good to discuss it, like all of us, we're discussing it. But when you said the information about the man existing, what was that called? The man existing with the dinosaur?
Yeah, I'd like
Let
to
me
know the source
pull
of
that
that.
up. I know it was in the limestone in, I think, Ohio. Hold on.
What's up, SaNeter?
Oh yeah, what is that called? SaNeter, do you want to hit the link and come in? What is so? Yeah, that would be good to be able to find out. I've heard something about that, but then I heard that it was debunked and that it wasn't authentic. So I want to ask another question, just to throw this out too, to mix this into the conversation, because I know you had spoken about this before about primates. Um, I also put in the title my position about primates, that we definitely, chimpanzees and apes, we originated from a common ancestor as well. So we do have a lot of similarities to those particular that particular species of primates, the chimp and different apes. And also throwing this out, because I'm going to let you guys talk a minute, because I'm going to mute out and listen, but I want you to discuss this, Dulcinea, because I didn't get a chance. I've never had a chance to talk to you about this, but I heard you talking about it with Ankh. So we have a common ancestor with the primates, which are apes, and those particular primates also, as I said, they are they're evolving. They're evolving just like we are. So when I hear about, skin color and why does this person look like that, we all evolved from that one common ancestor. But the apes, obviously, they evolved in a different way because of, their adaptation to different environments and different other factors. And we evolved from that common ancestor in our way. So I just want to throw that in there as far as the primates, the other primates, the apes, and hear you, get to discussing that, and then I can jump back in and after you respond.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's called the Paluxy. It's next to the Paluxy River. And yes, like I was saying, they have said the human footprints have been debunked in the limestone, but they say that the dinosaur footprints are not debunked. It would be incredibly hard to fake the prints in limestone in that way for it to come out in the carbon, how it's carbon dating and over that large period of time. So they do agree as far as that the dinosaur tracks are real, but because of the carbon dating that's found on the human footprints, they say it's been debunked because there wouldn't have been a hominin at that particular time. But it's still like, how are they faking that? in the same limestone they say the dinosaur can't be faked in. But
So
as far as my position when it comes to the apes, and us being the great apes, what I see is a lot of comparison of first the genes and DNA and seeing how the similarities. But I feel like the big crux of it is that when it comes to DNA, we don't understand it. They're comparing 2% of the DNA that they call coding to say, okay, well, because of the overwhelming similarities of this coding DNA that we understand, then we're the great apes also because we have our thumbs to climb, we can peel fruit or anything, which my position is in evolution, we would have evolved to do that because we're on the land. We have our own elements as far as being upright animals. And even though a cat and a dog have paws and have similar tongue and different things like that, they're not saying that they're the same species just because those similarities. And we can see that if we compare the DNA, we'll see the same DNA building blocks are pretty much in all the universe. So we have a lot of similarities, and that's why people keep bringing up the similarities to a pig because of the pig skin and the internal workings of the organs of a pig and the DNA. They say us and pigs are 98% similar. The chimpanzee they say are 98.8 similarities, but I believe that's coming from Earthlings. What they're not
wait,
giving us is the
wait,
common
what?
ancestor. They're saying that we have a common ancestor between us, but they've
Wait a
never
minute.
been able to produce that common ancestor. They just give us links in between and say, okay, these are the links in between, but still haven't found the actual common ancestor that shows between the chimpanzee, the humans, the apes, etc.
Hold on. So wait, those are there. So you said that um about pigs having like similar DNA as humans, that comes from Earthlings. Did you say that correctly?
I'm saying because the building blocks of when you look at the genomes, the building blocks are going to be the same of human life to other life forms, and that's where we're seeing our similarities. But those similarities aren't enough to say and define and classify us under the same group or
So that's
subtitle.
what
And
you.
I do believe we're missing out on our real hominin, common ancestor, because we're studying apes too much, and we don't believe humans have existed, even though they existed far longer than what we want to admit to.
So so when you but you use Earthling though. So I'm just trying to understand what you meant by that. So you meant Earthlings, meaning that like uh not no extraterrestrial person, right? Because you
Right,
said I believe.
exactly. So, like the common,
Because I
when
was
we look at
confused. I
atoms
was
and
like,
molecules and electrons and different things, when we're looking at those bases of how things are formed, we're gonna see similarities through all life forms because of those common basic molecules that are shared amongst us all. That is how life begins. So that's where we're seeing the similarities. And I'm saying that those similarities don't mean that we're classified under the same group, and that hominins are not being studied correctly because we're classifying them as apes instead of looking into hominins existing far longer than what they say.
okay, what's up, Mighty Hebrews? Your turn. What's up, sir?
Oh man. Yo, Sister Dulcinea.
Yeah,
Shalom,
peace,
Sister
mighty
Napah.
Hebrew. Yes, peace to you and your wife and your family. I just wanted to say the two people who entered, if you can turn on your camera, that's good. Just, but if, I just
I'm
want to,
outside with my
Yeah,
dog, so you wouldn't even be
I
able to
was
see me.
wondering, Sister Napah, can Dulcinea show my PowerPoint real fast? This brief PowerPoint?
yes, 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 yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank
Right,
you.
right, Pack. Thank you for the super chat. Okay, whoever that
And
is,
can
you have a
Denise,
really bad connection though. So could you mute out or go out and come back in?
are
Is
you
that
talking
you,
to me?
Darling? No, no, no. Somebody has a bad, like a choppy connection.
Oh, yeah, I can hear him. And I was wondering when I do this brief PowerPoint, can everybody mute their phone
Yeah.
if possible? But what I want to read something real fast, Sister Napah, there's a book here I have called The Human History of the Hidden Race, Forbidden Archaeology by archaeologists Michael A. Kremel and Richard L. Thompson. And he also wrote a book called Human Devolution. But on page 210, I just want to read something called The Recent Eolithic Discovery from India, the Marceline, right? It says this is very important, page 211. Ramapithecus first came to the attention of scientists in the 1930s. This creature, initially regarded as a fossil ape, was named after Rama, an incarnation of the god described in the Vedas. So this is very important here. This is very important because in the Ramayana, in the Hindu record, they teach that this Hindu god named Rama created this ape-man species known as Hanuman. Thus you get the word human. Now listen carefully. This is from scientists. This is out of their mouth. Watch. It says, an incarnation of God described in the Vedas. In 1964, Ramapithecus achieved worldwide fame when Edwin Simmons and David Pilbeam reconstructed the upper jaw from two fragments, giving it a characteristically human parabolic shape. Simmons and Pilbeam pronounced Ramapithecus to be a hominoid, an erect bipedal primate. In 1964, Edwin Simmons wrote in Anthropology, Ramapithecus pamjupius is almost certainly man's forerunner of 15 million years ago. Stop. This correlates with what Sister Dulcinea is saying, that we have to look for man even further than what they've given us between 200,000 to 300,000 and 350,000 BC. Y'all may disagree with me, but I believe that the hominoid species been on this planet for at least 18 million years. I'm gonna continue on. Now watch. Ramapithecus is almost certainly man's forerunner of 15 million years ago. The determination increases tenfold the approximate time period during which human origins can now be traced with some confidence. This is what they're saying, that scientists now are starting to push man further back, at least 15 million BCE. And this correlates with the Mighty Hebrew University teachings when we start talking about the separation of the polarities into sexes, and the completion was 18 million BCE. And we're seeing that scientists are now pushing humanoid origins back at least 15 million years. Let's continue on. This was a bit of an overstatement because between Australopithecus and Ramapithecus, there was and still is a gap of several million years in the hominoid fossil record. In any case, Ramapithecus quickly received acclaim in textbooks and journal articles as the earliest human ancestor, as Richard Linke and Robert Lornan wrote in 1977. They state, Ramapithecus, as far as one can say at the moment, is the first representative of the human family, the hominoids. Now that's what they said. That's not what I said. Dulcinea, can you put that up for me? Can you put that up for me real quick? Are you there, Sister Napah?
Yeah, I'm here.
Smithsonian one, or which one?
Hold on.
You're gonna go to
Oh, you know what? Actually, I'm actually out though. I'm not in. I don't know if I can screen share it. Can you screen share it without me? Because I'm on my mobile. I'm out.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. Let me see.
Yeah, but you can read it though. I mean, is it long? I'm going to does Ollie, did you want to say something? Go ahead and read it, brother. I mean, is it long?
Yes.
Did somebody want to respond to what he said before?
I got a quick question, Mighty Hebrew. Just one.
Yes.
That book that you read to us, what year was that book written?
This book was written in the first edition was 1993. The newest edition is 2015. I got the newest edition.
Okay, because the reason why I asked that is because when it comes to like biology, like science, um, you can get discredited if you still use like scientific information from 2017 because science is constantly evolving. So I'm just, putting that out there.
But yeah, I'm highly familiar with that. But here at the Mighty Hebrew University, we think outside the box. We don't think in the box. I told Sister Napagas in Chicago at the late Prince ICL's mini mansion, I said most people that are conscious are dealing with what I call academic box. What we do at the Mighty Hebrew University, we align the archaic records from the ancient Puranas, the stanza of Zion, the Ramayana, and the Tanakh, and we align the adapt knowledge with the scientific data. Scientifically, it is now being proven that man is much older than we have discovered. Another thing, we have what is called at the Mighty University a polygenesis understanding, not a monogenesis. It has been proven by the way of Smithsonian Institute and many other schools of higher learning that there were other species not a part of our hominoid family, very similar to us. Yes, this is why we were able to produce. That's why you have ghost gene DNA, because there was a ghost gene species that were mixing with our hominoid family along with different species that don't exist today that were mixing. They're now admitting that there is a possibility that there were different forms of information of these different parts of the world. Everybody said on SaNeter, all of them agreed that some way, somehow, our hominoid species ran in contact with these other people and started amalgamating. These bone fossils, Australopithecus, look at the Neanderthalians. They look like human. You can clearly tell it was a hybridization and amalgamation. And what I'm saying, the hybridization came by the way of two thought processes. One can disagree. The first process was 17.5 million BCE during the state of descent of the mindless when we was in Tamal Nadu, falsely called Numeria. We instinctive will because our bodies weren't fully coarse and solidified in the body perfectly when the separation of the polarities into sexes came. Then you have roughly around 12 million BCE. Now you're talking about the Ptolemy root epic or the Atlantean root epic during these antediluvian times. We have conscious will now. We're not dealing with instinctive will no more. We're consciously mixing with these species, thus born in what you see now, these Neanderthalians, these Cro-Magnons. The difference at the Mighty Hebrew University versus evolutionists, they're really not giving you the story or the backdrop of the story, how these things happen. Here at the Mighty Hebrew University, we're giving you the antediluvian archaic records, and we're showing you through these records, aligning it with the scientific data, proving what we're saying. They're proving now man can go and leap back to 18 million years ago. We proved that during the sin of the mindless, there was a separation of the sexes, 21 million BC. These first humans were dealing with instinctive will. That's why when you go into the Genesis, it says man has become as gods, knowing good and evil correctly. Man has become conscious. The word man goes to the Sanskrit word manu, which means to think. So man has become a thinker, or this being that was really an asexual being, now separated, has become consciously aware. So what we see, the European populace today, it's just a hybrid amalgamation of our human family mixing with species that was on this planet that don't exist no more. And we can trace that through the DNA. This is why we have this R.H. rhesus monkey DNA. We have scientists live on YouTube saying that all the other so-called races have this except the original black races. This is what they're saying. This is not what I'm saying. This is how you get the ghost gene DNA. So we can see this chain of events. But if Dulcinea can read to me,
right. But real quick, Mighty Hebrew, I want to let somebody else come in. The brother John wanted to comment. I think he's been waiting. Into Zali. Go ahead, John.
No, I'm just listening for the moment.
Well, if you're gonna listen, brother, you can. I'm gonna let you out, and then you can come back when you have something to say, if that's okay.
Okay, no problem.
Do you have anything to say before you go? Oh, okay. He left. Okay, Dazali, what did you want to add?
Nepal.
Hello.
How
Hi.
you doing?
Good. What's going on? What did you want to add?
I wanted to add, I was listening to the show earlier, and a lot of these people have me thoroughly confused. I don't understand what a lot of black people are trying to do. I'm going to frame it like this. On one side, we have professionals who have tangible results. They have, written work. They have stuff, things that they have invented from the science and the knowledge that they have demonstrated to us. They have actually demonstrated stuff to us. We have those people on one side. Then on the other side, we have people who are giving us their thoughts or their opinions, what can be called pseudoscience. And they have absolutely nothing they can offer us. They don't have any evidence. They don't have anything written that can be peer reviewed. They have nothing. And so it's like most of us know how to not fall for the flim flam man. We don't fall for the flim flam by asking someone to show us something, right? That's why when we go with science, science can actually show us something. Now that's on one side. On the other side, we have the people who are just giving us this damn Brooklyn magic, this damn I think, I want, I don't think, and they have nothing to offer. So for my people who are sitting on the middle fence, which side would you ride with? The side that can actually show you something, that has the side that has brought us most of these wonderful inventions that we are using, this cell phone, your laptop, et cetera, et cetera. That one side has brought us all of that. It has tangible results. Are you going to ride with that side, or are you going to ride with the side of people saying, well, I don't think, well, I don't like, well, no. Which side are you going to ride with? And last point, is a Chihuahua Canis familiaris the same way that a pit bull is? I will answer it myself. Yes, they are. They look very different. They look very, very different. And I'm sure if a pit bull could talk, it would say that there's no way that a Chihuahua is in the same species as I am. But guess what? They are. And guess how we can tell? They can have babies. So the people that are arguing for separate human species, that we currently have separate human species, until you can show me a color or race that you can't have fertile children with, you should understand that you are sounding very, very crazy. It is not that hard. We are the same species. It's just that we have separate environments, adaptations, etc. Black people, stop fighting it. Stop displaying this damn sword, this sword losership. This, I gotta conquer the damn white man by saying everything opposite of him. I mean, you're just making yourself look crazy. But thank you. Thank you, Nepal.
Yeah. Does anyone? Thank you, Giselle. Anybody want to respond to that quickly? Who has?
Before Mighty Hebrew goes, and then he can go into the sources. I just want to say how people use that straw man argument all the time when it comes to it. I actually work with computers. I very doubt he even knows the inner workings of a computer or how the network works or anything like that. But they just use it to just bring up an emotional appeal to say, I'm the one that has real science. Look, I can bring up computers. I can bring up devices, and that's real science. And what you're bringing up is not real science, even though I'm bringing up arguments that scientists have brought to each other. And then the last thing proves my point. The Canis lupus is a direct common ancestor of both all the wolves, the domestic dogs like the Chihuahua and the Pit Bull, and they're not the same. They're not classified as the same, but they are classified under Canis lupus. So why is it that when it comes to us as humans, we're classified all the same, and we can't have a human common ancestor that's separated into divisions or different types of humans?
Let me answer that real quick. Just like you just said, the pit bull and the chihuahua both have a common ancestor, Canis lupus. That's why they can mate. So black people, white people, Indian people, we have a common ancestor. Well, no, we are the same species. Chihuahua and Pit Bull are actually the same species. They aren't separate species. But what some of the people like the Aboriginals and the Indians are saying, even if they aren't aware of it, they're trying to say that they are a separate species from Africans, a totally separate species. If a hominid popped up in North America and one popped up in Africa, they would be totally separate species. They would not be able to have children. That is very, very easy. They would be totally separate species.
And I want to jump in and just say I agree with Jazali. I mean, I think I'm maybe I'm not really hearing it. Am I hearing that what he's saying is correct? You say, and Mighty Hebrew, that, like the title says, white people are not the same species as black people?
No, they're under the same hominin species or a Homo sapien, but we're different, just like a pit bull is not the same as a wolf. So we know that they're under Canis lupus, which you guys are making our point. It's under the subcategory Canis lupus. So under hominin, we're the same, but they don't say a wolf and a domestic dog is the same, but they say an African and an American is the exact same when they're not.
Okay, so yeah, you can, but I just want to clarify when we're talking about we're humans, right? We're Homo sapiens sapiens, correct? I mean, but my Hebrew, I keep muting you because the feedback is most likely coming from me, brother. When you want to talk, you can unmute. So, so Jazali, his argument, which I agree with, is that even though it's a Chihuahua and a Doberman Pinscher, they have a common ancestor, and therefore they are also they are the same species, correct?
Yes. Canis familiaris.
Are they the same class? They're classified as Canis. What did you say? As canines, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So that would be a classification, right? Because I get that mixed up with Linnaeus. There's classifications because species are for instance, I'm a Homo sapien sapien. I'm a human being, but I'm still a primate. I'm classified in the same classification as a chimpanzee, correct? So I'm not the same species as a chimpanzee. So yeah, so I want to clarify the difference between. So we have species and we have classifications, family classifications. Well, there's different phylum too. It's pretty elaborate. I always forget from biology, but anyway. So I know that primates are classification, and then we're going to compare it to canines. I just stay with me, everybody. And I'll stay with you. So we have canines as a classification, right? And then we have primates as a classification, correct?
Okay, following you.
Okay, I'm just checking with everybody that we're on the same page. Am I right, or am I?
On the same page. So what we're saying is the hominins have their own classification, and that's what we're saying, that we have a common ancestor with white people, but we're Homo sapien, but we're not all Homo sapiens sapiens.
So you're saying, like, with how we consider in science, the chimpanzee, the gibbon, those apes are in the same classification as primates as humans. So you're saying white people would be like the chimpanzee is to the human being as far as to the black person. So there's like a classification with primates So white people are in that classification with primates, but you're saying they're not the same species as Black people.
Well, yeah, as far as when it comes to those subcategories, like how the wolf is not the same as the domestic dog, but they are the same species. So we say the classification, but the only thing is you have to take us out of the apes, because what we're saying is we're not the apes. We have our
So
own.
we are primates.
We're not primates, according to
Oh,
theory. We're not primates. We have our own classification amongst the human race. That's why I'm saying so it's not confused. We're our own hominid species, which we all fall under that hominin species. We're all Homo sapiens, but we're not all Homo sapien. We have different admixtures depending on what region of the world you're from.
so that would take us back to square one, right? If we have to all have different admixtures, how do we determine? Because right there are some Black people who, when they do their DNA, they see, okay, I've got this whole genetic background of European, what people call European and Caucasian or whatever, right? Is that what you were saying, Mighty Hebrew?
Okay. Can y'all hear me?
Because this is getting kind of like complicated. I understand about evolution. So do we agree that humans are evolving right now? Or do we say that we're not evolving anymore?
Well, I teach emanation, not evolution.
Your connection is a little bit struggling.
Can y'all mute yourselves? Okay. In this area down reading in chapter 11, it's called Man and the Apes. I want to give y'all some sources. Listen, until the recent century, man was considered to be derived from primitive Neanderthalian man and primitive Neanderthalian man from the anthropod apes. Such a simple relationship is now questioned for. So far, the links in the chain have not been discovered. The evidence appears to indicate that the anthropods are not the direct ancestors of the Neanderthalian man, but that they derive from the family tree at some still earlier period. Writing on Man in the Making, Sir J. Arthur Thompson states, the scientific conclusion clearly indicated is that men in the making split off very long ago in the Miocene period from a stock common to them and the large apes of today. No one believes that tentative man sprang from any existing apes or monkeys. Source, Modern Science, Sir J. A. Thompson, page 158. Professor Lee Gross Clark of Oxford argues that the human stem might already have become segregated at a much earlier stage in evolution than is generally supposed. Recent discoveries have established that the modern apes were fully differentiated by the beginning of the Miocene period. Source, Nature, 20 February 1937. Sir Robert Bloom, in Finding the Missing Link, gives his opinion on our present evidence. The conclusion seems to be that the human line arose about 25 to 30 million years ago from a primitive anthropod. That's Finding the Missing Link by Robert Bloom, page 90. Professor Wood Jones in Hallmarks of Mankind writes, we must avoid the snare of regarding the more primitive apes as being on the road towards becoming men, since all evidence would seem to show that they are merely apes that fall short in some respects of attaining all the specializations of their modern representatives. It is true that they have probably arisen nearer to that early part of the ways in the primate stem at which the human stock branched off, but they are definitely apes on the branch that leads to the modern anthropods and not on which leads to Homo. That's in the Hallmarks of Mankind by F. Wood Jones, page 85. It has recently become possible, listen y'all, to construct a family tree and to place it approximately in time, Sir Arthur Keefe says. All are agreed that anthropod and man have a common ancestor. It is merely the degree of relationship that is in dispute. That's in Nature. That's in the book Nature, page 5. The whole subject has been dealt with by Sir Arthur Keefe in Man's Family Tree, and in the search for man's ancestors by Sir Elliot Smith. Some details are given in a monograph on the races of man by R.B. Bean. For later opinions and researches, see Findings of the Missing Link by Robert Bloom and Hallmarks of Mankind, F. Wood Jones. Figure 4 is based on the diagram by Keith Gregory and Elliot Smith. In regards to these diagrams, Sir Arthur Keefe says, Dr. W.K. Gregory made a family tree of man and ape. It was constructed quite independently, being based on an altogether different mask of data from mine. He also brought the human stem from the anthropod at the beginning of the Miocene, probably practically the same date of emergence that I have given. On the Osborne scale of reckoning, he and I give the human stem in antiquity of about 20 million years. So this aligns with what Sister Dulcinea is saying, that man is much older than what they're telling us. We have scientists from the past and even now that's saying these things. We can also go to Sir Elliot Smith, who shows the true human family as separating from the common stem at about the middle of the Miocene. Our figure 4 illustrates these various points and gives the scientific presentation of the problem. It may be noted that many scientific authorities agree that the separation from the common stem and the appearance of the true man took place during what is now called the Miocene period in about 20 million years ago. Here's the diagram right here. Let me show my screen real quick. I don't think she can share it, but here it is right here. The diagram right here. Y'all might not be able to see it because the sister can't show the screen right now. And it shows that figure 5, which is taken from the pedigree of the apes according to this teaching. 3 things may be noted in this figure. First, the mammalian prototypes, the lower mammals and lower apes, are all shown as separate from evolving humanity and are therefore separated from the main evolutionary earth. So they saying that we don't come from these. We did not evolve from so-called primates. What happened is you have the common ancestor. The common ancestor is us coming from the subjective realm to the objective realm and branching out. That's what happened. As I continue on to read. So although they continue their existence in time as the various species of apes or animals, they make comparatively little further progress in change of form. Second, there is no connecting line between the circles representing the races until after the separation of the sexes. This may indicate that while the lines show biological continuity in the animal kingdom and between the 5th cycle and its predecessor, there is no such continuity in the early races. This would naturally be expected if the human consciousness inhabited etheric forms. There would be continuity of consciousness, but not biological continuity of bodies. Third, the special relation between the anthropods and man is indicated by the line at the bottom of the diagram, connecting the lower apes on the one hand with the
Yes. Let me stop you for a minute, because that's a lot of information. And really, I'd like to know, how does that still prove that white people are separate species? None of that proves that. So I don't see where that's connected.
It's very simple. This is very simple. The original hominoids were melanated people. There were other species that existed that were similar to us, but different. Some put them under the category of being a part of the hominoid family. Some don't. Here at the Mighty Hebrew University, we don't teach a monogenesis. we teach a polygenesis. So there was species that mix with our human family and produce what we see Neanderthalians and other species from which you get the origin of the white race. There are amalgamation, a hybrid amalgamation of different species coming together to born them. They weren't originally there in the beginning. That being the case, they are hybrid.
Okay. So from my position, I get what you're saying. I don't see where they became hybrids. I see that they actually adapted to an environment, and that's pretty much scientific. We can see that in evolution taking place now. You know. So go ahead.
I heard you say something about adaptation, which we know if we go into civilization or barbarianism by Sheikh Anta Diop. Sheikh Anta Diop also points this out as well when we went into a worm glacial period of ice age, but that's theoretical. When you look at the so-called Eskimos, they were up in the ice for over 20,000 years, but their mentality and their social construct isn't savage or destructive. When you look at the Euro-Gentile nations, you can clearly see that this wasn't a thing of just adaptation only, but it was through hibernization, adaptation, social conditioning.
People always use the Eskimos, which I know that's not a really good term to use, but there's information, proof that there's proof of adaptation in several different animals and people. So as far as we're talking about the vitamin D, you know, the way humans have adapted in different climates. Thank you. Sorry about that. So it is obviously there. I mean, we can't deny that, right? We have hard evidence that there is.
Yes, but that's the only thing. The adaptation is not the only thing. All I'm saying is that scientists have proven that now this is what scientists are saying. Scientists today in 2023 are questioning the outer Africa theory. This is a fact. They're now saying that there are species that weren't even a part of our hominoid species, but they were similar to our hominoid species, and that they were mixing and amalgamating, and through this amalgamation, actually.
Who are these? What is this species specifically? Like, what are they called? Where can we locate them?
These species are known as ghost gene. You have different names that they call themselves, but we have.
So there's no specific name for this species.
They don't, in the scientific world, they're not giving it an actual name, because within the DNA structure, they're trying to say that it's so ancient and old, they really can't identify it, but they can identify its existence through the DNA that is in certain tribes in Africa, like the San tribe, the Yoruba. They can find this ghost gene DNA. You see what I'm saying? And my whole point that I'm saying is basically simple. In these times during the Miocene period, there are species which you would call, you know, beings, so to say, that just don't exist no more, but they mixed and amalgamated with the human family. And that's why I believe when you look in the scripture carefully, it tells us not to mix and cross seed. Why? Because in antediluvian times, during the Tamal Nadu and Patalia root epic, they were mixing and splicing seed, which was totally against the natural order effect.
Yes, but anyone can claim this ghost gene then, right? So that's where we go back to how are we claiming it? Anyone can. Thank you. How are we claiming it?
Right. My thing is, this is my thing. I want people to enroll in the Mighty Hebrew University. I'm saying let the Europeans tell their story. When they break down evolution, that's their story. I'm not here to argue with Europeans about their story, saying they evolved from a primate. Okay, cool. They say it out their own mouth. What I'm saying is, okay, I agree with you. But the difference is I'm giving the backdrop story of how that happened. When you go into the stanza of Zion, when you go into these ancient archaic records, there are stories of hibernization of beings saying that they born these 8-man species and they mix with the human family, producing these hybrids. And scientists is confirmed. All we doing is taking the scientific data and aligning it with the archaic records, and it's aligning with each other. Go read the Ramayana records and then look at the scientific data. So if
but I just want to jump in, but still, it's so you're admitting that it's just an opinion because there's no evidence that it is this ghost gene or the superior race of people is black.
right. Right. Well,
Okay.
what I'm saying is, if the scientists are speaking about a ghost gene, this is what they're speaking about. And then we're showing the archaic records that were written thousands of years before these scientists are making claim of this ghost gene. There has to be truth to the archaic records. The archaic records, they find these bones, Ramapithecus. Look at this, Sister Napah. Rama was a Hindu deity that born Hanuman, which we get the English word human. Hanuman was a mixture of an 8-man beast. This is what they say. And later on, when they found these fossils in the Indian subcontinent going back 14.5 million BCE, they called it Ramapithecus because the scientists or these paleontologists that found these bones, it caused them to remind themselves of that story of the Ramayana. So my question is, if the Europeans can give their scientific theory, why can't we create our own schools of thought and give us our theories? What makes their theory?
Don't we want to find the truth instead of going and just making stuff up?
Oh, this is not made up, because we know that there are bones. Listen, they have what is called in the scientific world knowledge filter. And within the knowledge filter, they may find bones and archaeological evidence that contradicts the standard of what we know today. The book Forbidden Archaeology smashed that shit. They showed that they found hominoid bones going back 6.8 million years. But because they don't want to disrupt academia, they'll say, yeah, it's true, but we're going to just brush that under the rug. And that's the knowledge filter. Whatever comes in, because you got to remember, these schools and universities are being funded by groups of people who have an invested interest. And the invested interest is evolution. That is the invested interest. What we're saying is this is not evolution we're talking about. We're talking about emanation. And within emanation, a form of devolution took place. In the scientific world, they talking about man came from descent to ascent. Here at the Mighty Hebrew University, we saying that man was from ascent to descent. Two different things. If we talk in ancient Kemet, if we talk in ancient Sumer, Babylon, Kush, Israel, wherever, all schools of thought, we talk in Africa, right? We talking about the origin of civilization, as y'all say. Well, all these civilizations said that man was God, from ascent to descent. But when we come to the Euro Gentile, everything now becomes totally terrestrial without the celestial involved. And now it's
right.
Descent.
Brother, I'm going to let Josene, I'm going to let you come in, and I'm about to close out in a minute. But I do want to let, John, did you have to say something? Did you want to say something really quickly before I let the sister go? She's been waiting.
Yes, if I can. I just want to say, how do you scrutinize? Should you scrutinize a new theory that's coming about as much as Darwin's theory? Because Darwin's theory was, do you even know his experiments were on birds and bugs, and the only thing he really did was what? Looked at the Goapalus finch and said that the beaks were bigger. Like, where's the evidence of anything of evolution for man? Like, he never, like nobody even.
Do you want to address that, Josene, that question, or are you asking that directly to Mighty Hebrew?
No, I was just saying that just period, because nobody scrutinizes Darwin's theory. Nobody even, all they say is, oh, Darwin's theory is a scientific theory, and it's like scientific theory doesn't mean that it's just straight factual. It's just they're using facts to create a hypothesis or a theory and whatnot. So why
Right.
can't we do the same?
Okay, Dulcinea, you want to address that?
Yeah, I can. I would say that that is what I'm doing. And I would say I don't even, I'm not even going as far as what Mighty Hebrew is saying with going into the past of where we're in. I'm staying right here in evolution and science today. And what I'm saying as far as with scrutinizing Darwinism's theory or any of these, when it comes to the fact of evolution, we know that organisms do evolve over time. And that's the fact. And now we have theories that explain that fact and scientific theories that explain that fact. When the brother brought up Canis familiaris, it's interesting because they have all these studies about the complexities of the Canis familiaris, which is the domestic dog, and how they became the domestic dog through a lot of translocation, meaning people bringing dogs to different areas, those dogs commingling. So those are previous evolutionary forms of those dogs that were commingling, mixing with each other, admixtures, and added complexity to what is known as the domestic dog today, which give us our different groups, whether it be the pit bull to the chihuahua. But what they do is instead of saying the human has had that same complexity of the evolutionary line, they say we're not complex, we're just apes, and the apes are the things that are complex. And that's what I'm arguing against. We have our own evolutionary line where we are the same species, but we are different breeds amongst that species from the places that we are. We've adapted to the places and have different mutations due
Right.
to that. And different people have never mixed with each other, just depending on after the continental shift and where they were placed on Earth.
Right. So I get what I'm starting to see the picture clearer from where you're coming from, because I do agree, and it's not just me agreeing. I've seen some things in science that there were different types of hominids, different species existing at the same time, right? Overlapping, but
Right.
um, yeah. So that's what I get what you're saying. So within the human race, so to speak, which is Linnaeus, back to him, but within human existence, you're saying, I mean, even though I know maybe you're saying species, it's going to take me a minute to really wrap my mind around that, but I do get what you're saying. It is possible, and I agree with that there are different humans that do. I mean, I see it because of evolution, and I don't think you disagree with that. uh, because even with the hominids, again, I'm not an expert, but I do know there were overlapping species, but there also was this one uniform evolution, right? So you're saying within humans there's there are different overlapping species or different species existing, and but we all still are uniformly evolving, right? Am I getting
Right.
it?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. And then as far as when it comes to this study that we've stopped and said that 350,000 years is the oldest, but we may need to wrap our minds around our evolution being a lot longer than that.
So how do we do this then? Now that I'm on the same page with you, where do we get? How do we decide? Oh, that's black people versus white people. Where again, we're already going into something that I don't really subscribe to. Just for lack of for conversation, I do say black white, but with Linnaeus, I agree with some of the things you're saying. I don't think that is as far as classification. I have some take issue with some of it because of the basis of you know, racism against my people. But how do we determine, what I'm saying? Like, we might as well throw it
Yeah,
out
I
with the
get what
black
you
white, right?
I think we should throw it out because I think it even stops us from seeing that there's some Europeans that may have always been black and may have always been from Europe, and we think that they're
Right.
from Africa. And that stops us from really understanding the historical basis of it as well, because we want to believe that migration is the reason why a black person is in Australia. And it could be that black person is aboriginal to Australia.
Yeah, and that's a social construct to keep us locked in this archaic way of thinking, like, oh, you're white, oh, you're black, where we're now, it's like we have to have an evolution of our mind, where we actually have to look at it in a way where, I don't know if this is what you were saying, Mighty Hebrew. Yours was very elaborate and I mean, Dulcinea, it just, are you saying the same thing that Mighty Hebrew
I
is
think
saying?
it's a little different because he's going into the form of like them actually going with apes and hominin species and ape species previously mating with each other and coming with a different altogether different subspecies. I don't know. I'm still researching that. I haven't accepted that completely. But what I would say is that once we do open this, it could help us in scientific ways as well, of just knowing like different aboriginals of different regions, instead of seeing them as like all them, if they're dark they're African. Maybe we can see like the dark Indian has different properties, has different ways to evolve or different things, when we're actually looking into them scientifically instead of lumping us all together.
So, okay, if we approach it in that way, instead of, we're okay, so going back to what I was saying about agreeing that we share a common ancestor, how does that? I mean, isn't it all possible for us to have? I guess we could call them subspecies within the human race, and still have a. Couldn't we still have a common ancestor?
Yeah, I do believe we still have a common ancestor, and I believe we haven't really found the exact common ancestor, because what I believe is they're finding is the ape common ancestors, and that's why we haven't found the missing link to connect us, because they're not even really exploring in any archaeology that doesn't match up to if it's like an ape, an Australopithecus, or anything like that. But I believe that there is possibilities that some of the archaeology that is called forbidden are false, but I think some of them could be true, and they could lead us to more hominoid links that are our actual common ancestors. And you know, have you ever heard of that they actually find like giant bones that are really
Yeah, I've
old and
heard.
primitive?
Yeah, and I think that was linked to. Oh my gosh, I just read something about Neanderthals.
Right.
I don't know. But I want to ask you, but going back to like the whole ape thing, um is it that we are just having an issue with being associated with apes because of the stigma and the history of us being called apes? You know, like, could that possibly be it? Because at the end of the day, as we evolve still as human beings, as Homo sapiens sapiens, aren't we going to, let's say, 1,000, even 1,000 years from now, look back and the species will be more evolved, and possibly we'll say 10,000 years. I'll give it more time. We could look at us as a species the way we exist today and say, wow, they were so primitive, the way they, their physique and the way they lived, the way they thought. Could that be an issue? Because for me, I don't, there's so many intelligent creatures, for instance, and this is very interesting. I'm glad I could dialogue with you on this. So I see today even like orangutans, that people say orangutans, orangutans and chimpanzees and gorillas, especially chimps and orangutans. They actually hold conversations with human beings, and so I see that as them evolving more as well, as far as their brain, not just as far as socially, but their neurology. So you know what I'm saying? Like, why are we? Could it be just that we have an
I
issue with?
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
get what you're saying, and I agree. I think we do have to consider that, because we have been called apes, we have been called monkeys, so we are biased to that. When we have all this scientific racism against us, we could have this bias that says, "Hey, we don't want to be apes for that reason." But all I'm saying is, I'm more open to be like, if someone's giving us archaeology that is refuting different things, I'm going to look into that. I'm not just going to say, okay, well, Darwin is the end all be all, and what his theory is the most accurate because consensus is saying. I'm saying, if it is the most accurate, then instead of us shunning other information, we should be able to hold that information up to Darwin's information and see it as better than completely shunning them out of the community. But since they completely shun anyone that has different information, it makes me want to look into that information more.
Right, and I agree with you. I don't completely. Darwin's theory of evolution has so many flaws, and it has so much. Uh, there's an agenda behind it before anything. But um, I do think about how they mix truth. There's truth mixed in with the lie for us to swallow the lie, and
Absolutely.
yeah.
And have you
So
heard of the silverback gorillas in South Africa? One thing they've started evolving and doing is for the poachers, since there's been so many poachers, they have learned how to deactivate certain poaching devices.
yeah,
They've tripped up the people.
isn't that
I'm
amazing?
witnessing people. Yeah, I think we're all,
I
no matter
think
if
that's
I
so
consider
great.
myself an ape or not, I think all of us are definitely evolving, and that's where I say evolution is intelligent. You can tell like
Hmm.
cells are becoming smarter and they're choosing the smarter aspects, which shows intelligence. And that's one thing I don't
Right.
like about the Darwin theory of just saying it's a happen chance, it would just happen. I don't think so. I think our genes are actually evolving and learning, and that's where those adaptations are coming from.
Exactly, and that's where we align. And yeah, about the animals, I mean, there's so many things that they put your hair on end. Like they send goose chills up my spine when I see like videos of. I saw this one video of an orangutan actually telling a person to. Okay, the ape saw something in the woman's purse or the man's bag, and then the ape was like signaling, like, give it to me. And then the ape started telling the person, go around, like pointing to the part where it was just crazy. So I was like, they communicate better than humans a lot of times. So yeah, I'm glad you hit the panel.
They
It's
do, and I've seen that one too. And the orangutan, when they saw a pregnant woman, and then I don't know if it was a woman or a male orangutan, but they ushered the woman over, had her lift up her to show her belly, and then he kissed her
yeah.
and everything to be like,
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's so. And you made me think of another one when the chimps tell them, like, the children no, they shake their heads no, and people say, well, is that a learned behavior? But even if it is, if they're mimicking us and they understand what it means, it's just so much to unpack. But I appreciate you coming in. I'd like to talk about this more. I'm going to let you just say your final bit, and then we can hopefully have another discussion on this if it's not on SaNeter or Unscrambled Minds or on my channel. That would be great, or all of the above. So go ahead and close out, and thank you for joining to everybody who left before you closed out. Go ahead, Dulcinea.
yes, I just want to say thank you for letting me join tonight and having this conversation with me, and it was a pleasure as always, and I can't wait for us to have another one.
Okay, and with that said, thank you everybody who's in the chat. I appreciate you coming over from SaNeter. Thank you, SaNeter, for sending the wonderful, toughest chat, smartest, most intelligent chat in the world. Gideon's in there. Gideon, your fingertips must be hot. You didn't hit the link. So next time, maybe you could hit the link. I would love to have you come in and add. So thank you, everybody. Peace to the darkest minds of the light. And this was a great discussion. Please don't forget to hit the like button. And yeah, have a great evening. Peace.